Alright guys, I need you to be on paragraph 6 of Letter for Birmingham Jail. You're going to read along and annotate with me, highlighting what I highlight. At the end of each paragraph, I'm going to stop and ask you a question, and you're going to write the answer to that question in the notes section here. Alright, let's start. In any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps: collection of the facts to determine whether injustice exists, negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. We have gone through all these steps in Birmingham. There can be no gainsaying the fact, no denying the fact, that racial injustice engulfs or has taken over this community. Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of brutality is widely known. Negroes have experienced grossly unjust treatment in the courts, and there have been more unsolved bombings of Negro homes and churches in Birmingham than in any other city in the nation. These are the hard, brutal facts of the case. On the basis of these conditions, Negro leaders sought to negotiate with the city fathers, but the latter consistently refused to engage in good faith negotiation. All right, so the question that I have for you for this paragraph is, what facts of racial injustice does King state in this paragraph? What are the facts of racial injustice that King states in this paragraph? You need to look back to what's been highlighted and write your answers here in this box. Pause the video until you're finished. All right, now that you've answered that, let's move on to paragraph 7. Then, last September came the opportunity to talk with leaders of Birmingham's economic community. In the course of negotiations, certain promises were made by the merchants. For example, to remove the store's humiliating racial signs, so the type of signs that they used to have, like blacks only, whites only, etc. On the basis of these promises, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth and the leaders of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights agreed to a moratorium on all demonstrations. The word moratorium means to stop. So they've agreed to stop demonstrations if the white store owners take down the racist signs. As the weeks and months went by, we realized that we were the victims of a broken promise. A few signs, briefly removed, returned. The others remained. As in so many past experiences, our hopes had been blasted, and the shadow of deep disappointment settled upon us. We had no alternative except to prepare for direct action, whereby we would present our very bodies as a means of laying our case before the conscience of the local and the national community. Let's pause here. So the question I have for you for this section so far is, what agreement did the white merchants come to with the black protesters during these negotiations? So look back at your notes here and then write your answer. What agreements did the white merchants come to with the black protesters during negotiations? Pause and restart the video when you've answered the question. All right, let's pick up reading right down here. Mindful of the difficulties involved, we decided to undertake a process of self-purification. What they mean there is to prepare themselves. We began a series of workshops on nonviolence, and we repeatedly asked ourselves, are you able to accept blows without retaliating? Are you able to endure the ordeal of jail? We decided to schedule our direct action program for the Easter season, realizing that except for Christmas, this is the main shopping period of the year. Knowing that a strong economic withdrawal program would be the byproduct of direct action, we felt like this would be the best time to bring pressure to bear on the merchants for the needed change. All right, go ahead and pause your video and answer the question that I put up. How do the protesters practice for their nonviolent campaign? How do the protesters practice for their nonviolent campaign? Look back here and see, how do they practice for the nonviolent campaign? Write your answer in the remaining space in the box. All right, let's keep reading paragraph 8. Then it occurred to us that Birmingham's mayoral election was coming up in March, and we speedily decided to postpone action until after Election Day. So they are going to postpone their direct action until the elections are over. When we discovered that the Commissioner of Public Safety, Eugene Bull Connor, had piled us up enough votes to be in the runoff, we decided again to postpone action until the day after the runoff, so the demonstrations could not be used as to cloud the issues. Like many others, we waited to see Mr. Connor defeated, and to this end we endured postponement after postponement. Having aided in the community need, we felt that our direct action program could be delayed no longer. So they kept waiting for the elections to be over, and then finally they decided they couldn't wait anymore. They had to act. You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You're quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. All right, so by protesting and having sit-ins and marches, they hope to make things so tense that people say, fine, we'll negotiate with you. It seeks to dramatize the issue so it can no longer be ignored. My citing the creation of tension as part of the work of nonviolent resistor may sound rather shocking, but I must confess that I'm not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there is a type of constructive, nonviolent tension that's necessary for growth. Just as Socrates felt it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, so must we see the need for nonviolent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. Essentially what he's saying there is that if he creates enough tension, that's what's going to prompt society to end racism, to end segregation. If they make things tense enough with their protests, then people will finally be able to come together. The purpose of our direct action program is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it'll ultimately, inevitably open the door to negotiation. I therefore concur or agree with you in your call for negotiation. Too long has our beloved Southland been bogged down in a tragic effort to live in a monologue rather than a dialogue. Monologue means one person speaking, as opposed to dialogue where you have two people, where you're speaking with both communities. All right, guys, here's your last question. How does direct action like sit-ins and marches lead to negotiations? Look back through this paragraph as some of the things that we've highlighted and write your answer here. How does direct action like sit-ins and marches lead to negotiations? You can go ahead and finish the video. All right, write your notes here for the answer to this question.